Hello and welcome to the Basketball Addicts
Yeah.
Podcast. All right, today we have we're gonna be talking about some different stuff during the off season. We were probably gonna be switching things up and doing different things what we would be doing right now because we all thought about 3 weeks ago that Kevin Durant would have been traded within a month, but it looks like he might not be traded until the beginning of the season. So we have no clue what's going on with
If
that.
at all.
So yeah. So what we're gonna be doing is a 1 month series that I've had the idea for a very long time. It's gonna be the Robin Hood series. Now this series is gonna be talking about greatest players that are extremely underrated. Players that are not truly shown at how valuable they are. We will explain to you their value, why they matter, why these players really made a difference in the NBA, why these players are underrated, why these players are Robin Hoods, and why being a Robin Hood matters, and all those type of things. This is going to be a really interesting podcast. We're going to be doing this for the next month. You guys are going to hear eight of these. We have 8 great players that we've chosen after doing some serious thinking. So excited about it, Chris. We're going to be talking about Wilt Chamberlain today. So what are you thinking about that?
Oh man. Wilt Chamberlain. I feel good about talking about Wilt Chamberlain because this guy is very
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's underrated to the point where people think he's overrated. It is very weird because like we know him as, like, I'm gonna use the word for y'all who, was watching like our evolution of basketball. He's an enigma.
Yes.
He's an enigma. He's like,
Yes.
oh God, I don't believe he actually existed. Is he like? Everybody wants to downplay what he was able to accomplish in the league during his time period. He's like, what, 7 foot something? You know what I mean? Built of granite, solid, tall, can move like a gazelle down the court. He's like LeBron but taller, and he just dominates. 100-point games, 50 like. And you're like, oh, he's playing against like people who are like 6'5" and 5'11" and stuff like that. Bump all that. It was only like 14. It's less team. It was less teams then. I don't know exactly the number. Less teams then than it is now. It's 32 teams in the NBA right now. It was less teams than that. That means he's playing the best player on each team every night. So that means that on his 100-point games, when he was having like 60, 50, 70, 100 points, who is he playing? He's playing the best player at the time. He's playing Bill Russell.
Yeah. Bill Russell, Nate Thurmond, Bob Lanier, Bill Walton.
These are the people who he's scoring on. Like, you got to think about that for a second. Like, yeah, his team wasn't that great around him. You know what I mean? But this is a player who really dominated, like legit dominated. Like, yeah, Bill Russell had a better team around him, but this is a single person just dominating the entire league.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. Definitely a single player dominating the league, and I would say that the man is so dominant because of skill and athletic gifts and all those type of things. But something I want to hit on early here is Bill Russell. That Bill Russell team, they has 10 rings. Everybody talks about Bill Russell having 10 rings. Everybody
11.
puts Bill Russell top 10, 11, my bad. Everybody puts Bill Russell top 10 center of all time. A lot of people have a top 10 player of all time. Man never averaged more than 20. The man had basically an Olympic team as his team, and the best coach in the NBA at that point in time, Red Auerbach, on his team as his head coach.
Yeah.
So he had all the advantages. But this guy never did, but you have to understand, one, they were rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they were like really great friends. Like, apparently they would like eat dinner together before games. Like, they were really actually close. They're great rivals. Great rivalry it was. And whenever there is a rivalry, reporters that are fans of the other side will always try to find ways to degrade what the other person is.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people talk about him being selfish. A lot of people talk about him not being a good teammate. A lot of people talk about him only caring about himself, and the reason why Bill Russell won those rings is because he didn't only care about himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's easy to look like you only care about yourself when you're averaging 50 and 25 throughout some seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to look like that when you're a volume scorer. Look at Melo. Everybody talks about, oh, Melo's selfish. Melo's a terrible player. I'd never have Melo on your team. Well, you're stupid. The only reason why you think that because he never won a ring.
Yeah.
If he would have been on Miami, if he would have been on the Heat instead of Chris Bosh, we would view him differently because of the narrative. Oh, he's not a winner. Hello, his next best player on those teams with the Knicks might have been Chauncey Billups or J.R. Smith or Amari Stoudemire as he was aging. Like, it was... The next guy wasn't anything special. So, we have to understand that. We have to understand the situation. We have to understand that just because somebody else's viewpoint is negative of him, it's all wrong because they don't understand, because they want to find ways to make him negative to rise up Bill Russell.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the Bill Russell hate is from people in Boston. The biggest one is Bill Simmons, who's a Boston Celtic fanatic. Like, these Boston fans have done a really good job, or people who like the Boston Celtics in the 60s, really good job of negating and pushing down Wilt Chamberlain's greatness. And, it's arguments that are uneducated as well sadly happen, where people talk about Wilt Chamberlain didn't have good competition. Wilt Chamberlain was the only person that was above 7 foot. Wilt Chamberlain XYZ. Just to write him off. Because his stats and his tape is way too amazing to be ignored if you can't find ways to write him off, and then he messes up everything that you have been taught to think about.
Exactly.
Him. This is why he's in the Robin Hood series. What are you thinking about that type of talk?
It's literally like, I'm going to touch on the first one I'm going to touch on is the pushing of one player down to rise another up. For one reason, that's something that just carries on throughout the years in sports, period. Why do we have to diminish another one's greatness to push up another guy's greatness? I'm not declining and saying that Bill Russell isn't great. I'm not going to say that because Wilt Chamberlain is great, Bill Russell isn't great. I'm not going to say vice versa. I think that they're both great players, but you just have to think about the type of caliber player that Wilt Chamberlain was and what he had to deal with. Literally, if you want to talk about plumbers and carpenters, Wilt Chamberlain had plumbers and carpenters, and Bill Russell had the basketball team. This is the difference in team. This is the difference in player. Bill Russell was more of, he was the guy, okay, listen, I'll grab every rebound, block every shot. I'm really long and tall. I don't really have to worry about scoring. I can score sometimes. I have scorers on my team. Wilt Chamberlain was like, I am the team. You guys just give me the ball. I'm going to make it happen for us some way, somehow. Now, if that's selfish, trying to carry your team, then LeBron's selfish. If it's selfish trying to carry your team, then Steph is selfish. Because sometimes he has 40-point explosions. Is he selfish for trying to carry he's carrying his team. Giannis is selfish then, if that's the case, because he carries his team. MJ is selfish because he carries his team. I don't like, these are people who literally put their teams on their backs, and that's what fans of the team want. Fans always want a star, but then you always have another. You have the same. Okay, fans want a star, but then you always have an argument against a star because they do the same thing that your star does. That doesn't make sense. If you want your star to put the team on their back and carry them to the promised land. Did he fail at that? Yes. Did he not win until he joined a different team? Yes, that's fine. But it had to come to that point because it's only but so much you could do if your whole team is getting crapped on and you're the only person who's scoring. You just like, get out the way. I got this. I'm gonna try at least give my 100%. You can't win every game, but you can try. You can put that effort for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was. You have to understand that, like, the reason why he doesn't have any rings is because he was in the same conference as the Celtics. Like, he had to get through the Celtics to get to the NBA Finals. Like, it's not like he was trying to beat Jerry West and Elgin Baylor when the Lakers when Jerry West went to like 9 NBA Finals during the same time frame, in a general sense, and it's not like he was going through them, and he had to go through Boston, who had athletic players and had the Olympic team over there that won 11 rings.
And ran the fast break like crazy.
Yes, true, very true. and had like really elite off ball movement for that time frame. Sam Jones and some of the stuff Bob Cousy does coming off ball and making catches and getting handoffs from Bill Russell is very much like a lot of off ball movement that we see today. So it was definitely something completely different from what Wilt did. Wilt was the man carrying the team. And, once we got past that part, I really got to talk about Wilt the player. Look, for the gazillionth time, I don't care what a book says. I don't care what some guy on TV says. Make your own gosh darn opinion. Actually watch these guys. Yeah. Watch the era. Because then you'll understand where we're coming from with this. This guy is a demigod.
Yes.
Comparatively speaking to the 60s, he is by far and away the most amazing. And it's not even close. He was a guy that was, if he was born tomorrow and we saw him play in the NBA 20 years from now, we would be like, yeah, I could see 20 years from now the basketball's going to be so crazy there's going to be a guy like this. Yeah. Like, he was a guy that's just way before his time with athletic gifts. So, you have to understand that just because somebody's taller doesn't mean he's better. Mm-hmm. So, you have to... We had the privilege of being Cleveland Cavalier fans and growing up and watching Zydrunas Zagausis. Zydrunas Zagausis was a 7'3" center from Europe. Yugoslavia or something, somewhere in Europe. Lithuania or something. It was one of those countries. But you have to understand where I'm getting at here was he had good post skill. He was a pretty good shot blocker at the rim. But what he was is he had cement for feet. Cement for feet. Most people that tall have cement for feet. And the special ones that are over 7 foot are Shaq-like, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem's got ballerina for feet. David Robinson's all this bulk and just athletic gifts and ripped and like muscles on muscles on muscles. Shaq is huge, right? These special athletes at that size was where things become special for the position. So I want to explain that because a lot of people talk about, oh, he's just taller than everybody else, so he could just dunk on everybody else. Like, it's not like he played against 6'5" players at the center position. Like, get out of here. Bill Russell was 6'10" with, he was in the Olympics. Almost missed out on the Olympics for being a long jumper. Like, apparently he got tied for third place with somebody, but he was friends with him, so he let him go because he was focused on basketball. Like, he had real hops. Like, Bill Russell's ridiculously athletic. Nate Thurmond was a guy who was built like Mo Bamba, whose fingers basically touched his knees. Like, long arms. 6'11", bulky, built out of granite. Like, he had to play against Walt Bellamy, 6'11", guys like 270, bulky, strong, like a bull.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you have to really understand and watch him play against people and watch that era to understand the center position was really good. Because there was 14 guys in that league that were just good. And it was the 14 best human beings on planet in America that America could produce, all playing at the center position.
Yeah.
And they had some freaks. There was a lot of number one draft picks at the center position in that era because of gifts. So you have to understand, okay, just because he might be an inch or two taller than everybody else doesn't make him better, because if that was true, then why wouldn't Zydrunas Zagausis average 20-25 when he was the tallest player in the NBA after Yao Ming went away?
Yeah.
Why didn't Yao Ming average 50? He's 7'6". Pretty smooth for that size, had mid-range shot, post. Does it make him the most dominant center of all time? No. Okay, what about Manu Bol? Manu Bol is 7'7".
And he can shoot a 3.
7'7". And he could shoot a 3. And he averaged like 12 to 10 points per game. Like, he's not, like, these, you have to understand, height doesn't change everything. Just because you're tall doesn't, because you put somebody like Bol on Shaq's just like, I'm huge, goodbye.
Yeah.
So you have to take that. You can't just use something as simple as that argument to negate him. Okay, so this is why he's so special. He is built out of, he's like David Robinson, where it is ridiculously bulky, like ridiculously strong. Like the man's a man-child and strength. And he is a man-child in speed, quickness, athletic gifts, verticality. Dear goodness, you have to understand that this guy could touch the top of the basketball. You could understand that he's a Giannis type athlete, where it's great quickness, it's great vertical, it's great speed, it's great agility, it's great strength. So he's all paired with a 7'1", 7'6" wingspan player. I think it might be 7'7". You have to put all of that together to understand, okay, he has special gifts. Because he is faster than Hakeem and David Robinson up and down the floor.
For sure.
Not even close. He is a top 5 strongest center ever. He might not be as strong as Shaq and big as Shaq, but David Robinson and him could really compete for that. Vertical athleticism, he might be the most vertically athletic, gifted center of all time. Like, it's Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan type of gifts there. Like, it's beyond special. Beyond special. He doesn't have the agility of Hakeem and the great feet of Hakeem, but he's probably top 5. That's how ridiculous his gifts are. And when we talk about somebody like that, oh my gosh, Michael Jordan has gifts like that. Oh my gosh, LeBron has gifts like that, where they're just so ridiculously gifted that it makes sense that they're so dominant. And his stats completely back this up as well, but the point of this is, okay, he has all those gifts, and then we have to talk about his skill. The man could handle, the man could dribble up the floor and run the fast break and make a pass to somebody else and have a layup. The man could run the floor with his ridiculous speed and look like he's doing the Flash whenever he turns it on, and get a dunk and be a great rim runner. Like, Shaq wouldn't last 3 quarters with this guy.
Be winded.
Because by the 3rd quarter, he'd be so winded. Like, it wouldn't even be close. And he also has post skill. Like, he has real post skill. Like, he has the best post skill offensively of that era, and it's not even close. A great bank shot, a great post fadeaway, great ability to understand angles and understand where to turn, and plays through power. Like, he's a power player with his athletic gifts. And you have to understand that makes him so special. I mean, this guy's a 13-time All-Star, 7-time scoring champion, 11-time rebounding champion, 2-time NBA champion, 10-time All-NBA, Finals MVP, 4-time MVP, 2-time All-Defensive Rookie of the Year. Like, that's his accolades. Like, this guy averaged 50 and 25 in a season. Like, his stats are ridiculous before he starts aging. And this is one of the greatest players of all time. We have him at 2. And we have to understand that we have to be able to see how special he would be in any era and be able to look at him like that and really talk about his actual skills and his actual tape and actually look and watch. You use your brain. It's not hard. So what are you thinking about your description of Wilt? What you think about him physically as a player, his skills, his dominance? I want to hear what you think.
So it's like when Wilt was being formed, it's like they were like, we're gonna take all the gifts of everything needed to be a great basketball player. We're gonna put into this one person, form him up, make him tall, make him strong, make him jump high, make him run fast, make him dominant, and just put him in the NBA. It's literally like he's just like made out of, like, I don't know, clouds or whatever you want to say. Like, he's just like built specifically. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, something magical. Like, it doesn't seem real. Is what I'm getting at. It seems like he's a myth. Like, he never truly existed. You know what I mean? Because one problem with greatness is that, you don't. It's sometimes, especially in sports, sometimes players are so great that you have to find a flaw within them because you can't believe that that's possible. because the players before
I can
then and the
see
players
that.
that you respect the most aren't able to do that. So you're like, oh yeah, he's a selfish guy. Oh yeah, he can't play for real. Look who he's playing against. Everybody's like 6'5" and under. You know what I mean? Like something like that. When you have somebody
Mm-hmm.
so great and it just feels like they're not even real, like they don't exist. It's funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the only thing we have to prove that he had a 100-point game is a slight recording of him scoring his 100-point game. Is his 100th point. That's really it. Is a recording on a radio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing that we have. We don't have any footage of that. But we have footage of other.
Wish it
We
would
don't
do.
have no. Exactly. I want to see footage of that. We don't have no footage of that. All we have is a recording that proves that he scored 100 points. But yet and still, you know what I mean? Because of how the type of player he was, and like I'll say it again, he's an enigma. It's like he doesn't exist. It's like he's a myth. Because of that factor,
Yeah.
with him as a player, it's just like it's easy to just try to diminish what he did. It's very easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to go like, yeah, he's not that great of a player. These players are better. But if he's so great, why wasn't he able to win? Once again, back to my original point when we started this podcast was that there's like 12 teams. He's playing the best player every night.
Yes.
The best player. If it's not like it's not like it's 32 teams like it is now, and you're LeBron, you play the Sacramento Kings, you just drop 50. You know what I mean? Like Sacramento Kings don't have nobody over there.
Yeah.
It's not. No, you play
I mean-
the best player every night.
Yes.
The 14 best
Yes.
teams, 12 to 14 best teams, you're playing them every night. You go on the court.
Yes. Yeah.
The best coaches, the best, you like, you know what I mean? You playing the best of the best every night.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. Was there anything else you want to say about that topic, or do you want me to move on to the next subject?
We move on to the next subject because then, well, yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about why this guy has been disrespected. We've then talked about how special this guy is and his actual gameplay. And I feel like it's important to talk about why it matters now. The reason why it matters is, gosh darn it, this guy should have a legacy. This guy should be what Babe Ruth is to baseball. This guy should be the myth.
Yeah.
This guy should be the... I really like these young guys now, but is he really better than Wilt? Like, Babe Ruth leads, he has a home run record without the steroids. That's pretty interesting. Like, you have to understand that he should be the one that's the greatest of all time conversation. He should be the one that you shouldn't be allowed to put not top 5. He should be the one that's getting these myths. This guy was so special to talk about. But when people talk about him, people talk about the negatives first. When people talk about him, they disrespect this guy. This guy doesn't have nearly the legacy that he should, because he doesn't have rings. Modern media has not chosen him. They chose Michael Jordan. They chose Bill Russell. They chose Magic. They chose Bird. He was the black sheep. Oh, sleep with 1,000 women. Oh, all these random things that people would think of first before they thought about the actual Wilt Chamberlain, the player Wilt Chamberlain, the human being.
Yeah.
And the reason why it matters about the series is it matters to understand about where things came from. It's important to look back and realize that Giannis's best comparison is him. Because Giannis is the guy that has all the gifts athletically. Giannis has the ability to handle the basketball, make passes in the fast break, and be extremely dominant. Giannis is extremely dominant inside. Where you have to understand that he is so important because he has led to all the post play. Think about Kareem. Think about Akeem. Think about David Robinson. Think about Shaq. Think about Embiid. Post play. It all came from him. And he gets no credit. No credit because Bill Russell did. Bill Russell was the defensive guy of that era. Yes, he was special defensively, but he wasn't what a Wilt Chamberlain is as a player, and it shouldn't even be close. This is like comparing LeBron with, I don't know, Scottie Pippen?
Maybe.
Scottie Pippen's a great team basketball player. Scottie Pippen's a great team basketball player. Great athlete. One of the greatest defenders ever to grace the basketball court. Great rebounder. Great passer. Point forward. Led to winning. Was he the most important thing that led to winning? No. No, he had a bunch of score. He had Michael Jordan next to him. He wasn't the scorer.
Yeah.
He wasn't the number one thing that led to winning. If you took John Havlicek, you took Sam Jones, you take Bob Cousy, you take all these guys off the Boston Celtics, nobody knows Bill Russell to the extent that we know him today. At all. Because nobody knows 11 rings. Bill Russell, 11 rings.
Yeah.
Bob Cousy dropped 50 points in the NBA Finals one game. Like, legitimately, the guy could shoot, score, pass. Like, he was an MVP once. Like, John Havlicek averaged at 30 in 1971. 30 points per game.
Yeah.
But he was coming off the bench at first with that team. Sam Jones eventually averaged 26, 25 as some players were aging out and he became the star. So they had 3 players on that team that could average 25 points per game on their own team. All on the same team, running a system that fit them because they based their system off of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Spacing. It was a mid-range spacing. It wasn't. You watch the Boston Celtics play and then compare it to everybody else. It's not the same because everybody else just feeds the post. That was the game plan for most other teams, other than Jerry West and the Lakers of that time frame, because they had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and they're playing with the guards. But you have to understand that it is so important, and the Robin Hood series is so important because we're bringing light to players and their value to you to show you how important they are, to show you how important Wilt Chamberlain is, to show you why he should matter, why you should care about him, why you should think about him as one of the greatest centers of all time, if not the greatest, why you should take your time to watch him, why you should take the time to think about why he is so undervalued. Because being undervalued sucks. It sucks. Yeah. It sucks being somebody that doesn't get the credit that they deserve for what they've done. There's a lot of players in that era like that, where nobody cares about them, but they were special.
Mm-hmm.
Special. And we're going to keep on talking about them. So that's where I'm going with how, he impacts the Robin Hood series. So what are you thinking about how he impacts the Robin Hood series, why the Robin Hood series matters, and how it connects with Will?
So I think that this is a very important series, because this, not saying that we know everything, but we're of a few biased commentators of basketball that have actually went back and did our research, and with that research have been able to form our own opinions, because a lot of media have biased opinions that have just been passed down throughout media. They just it's a lot of regurgitation when it comes to their opinions. And then Wilt is very important to the series because he's a story that's been passed down and regurgitated over and over and over again, but not in a positive light. Like, we always hear Mike, greatest player of all time, 6 rings, 6 rings, 6 rings, 6 rings. Bill, greatest center of his era, 11 rings, 11 rings, 11 rings, 11 rings. But when we hear Wilt, it's always negativity. It's always, he wasn't a great player, he wasn't a good teammate, he was selfish, you know what I mean? 1,000 women. And then when you do hear something about Wilt, it just doesn't seem real because you've already been fed all the negativity. Like, did you know that Wilt Chamberlain was a globetrotter at one point? That he handles the ball like LeBron, moves down the court and passes on the fast break with one hand, scoop passes like it's nothing. Did you know that he beat Jim Brown in the foot race? Do you know that he could have went to the Olympics and won Olympic gold? Do you know this? Do you understand that this is the caliber of player that we're talking about? That you can it's so. And I'll just get back to my other point, which is that he's to the point of greatness where it's just hard to believe that it actually happened. The fact that it's so hard to believe, it makes it so easy to diminish his legacy and what he actually was able to bring to the game of basketball, because you can't believe that it actually happened. I can't. Look, I've seen clips. I've heard the recording. I don't believe it actually happened. But I'm still not going to diminish his legacy, because we understand that there's a picture out there that exists with 100 points written on it. That's not fake. That's not photoshopped. There's no Photoshop back then. He was just like, let me get a marker and write this on there. That don't happen for everybody, because Devin Booker took the same picture. Kobe took the same picture, so they just faked it too. We can't push down a great player to lift up another. We can't push down a great player because of media narratives. We can't push down a great player because we just can't believe that their greatness ever existed. We can't do that. That's why this series is important. That's why Wilt's important. That's why he's the first player on this list of our series, is because there's not there's not a player more disrespected in the annals of history, in NBA history, than Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain. You said it best. You said that we can't, not that you didn't say this, but you basically said, like, we don't hear the comparisons of Giannis to Wilt. We don't hear the comparisons of Shaq to Wilt. We don't hear the comparisons of these great centers to Wilt. Wilt is the prototype, but he's not even we could take Wilt out of his era and place him in any era, and he's going to dominate that league.
Yes.
He's the prototype, but he's a prototype that fits every era. And can dominate. We don't look at him in the correct light. We don't see him as, we don't see him like we see Elgin Baylor. We don't see him like we see Dr. J. We don't see him like we see Magic. Magic is to LeBron what LeBron is to Magic. We don't see Elgin Baylor as Mike, or Mike before Mike. We don't see Juliet. We don't see Wilt like we see Dr. J as Mike before Mike. as Mike. You know what I mean? We don't see these. We don't make the right comparisons because of the fact that his legacy is so diminished, because the media has done such a great job. It is just like, this guy, he's not great. He's not great. Bill Russell is better if he was great than rings. And then we get to the ring debate. And that's another reason why it's important for this, because a lot of players are really swept under the rug and trashed because of the fact that this ring debate exists. Before there was a Mike 6 rings, 6-0 in the finals, there was a Bill Russell, 11 rings. And 11 rings really took over the 0 rings, and that's where the debate started. That's where this debate that we carry on to this day, this age-old debate, because it is old. These players played in the late 50s, 60s, maybe into the early 70s. This is an old debate. And we're still dragging it out years and years later. We're in 2022, and we're still using the same debate that these players used before social media, when there was just a paper. And people were typing and sending out papers and saying, and it was a sports column, before there was actually TV networks dedicated to this, before there was stations dedicated to this, before there was pages dedicated to this. We're just spewing out the same age-old debate, and we can't keep doing that. We can't keep forcing this debate. This debate is old, hundreds of years old. That's why this is important.
I agree, man.
That's important. That's why it's important, because these are old debates. We have to let these debates go. Rings will never equal greatness, because basketball is a team sport, and you don't win basketball games by yourself. Proof in the pudding. Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points, and he only has 2 rings.
And the 2 were with, like, Jerry West. Well, you got one with Philly, but the other one was with Jerry West and that other guy. He was averaging 25 and like 6.
Like, think about that for a
You can
second.
keep on going while I look him up.
Yeah, go ahead. But you know what I'm saying? That's why the ring debate doesn't exist, because it don't look. Mike had the best team of that era, period. And once they got Scott,
Yes.
he couldn't win without Scotty, because if he like, just in comparison, right here, I'm just gonna throw this debate out there, and then we can go wherever we want to go from there. Jordan did not win every playoff game, did not win every series until he got Scotty. Scotty was the missing piece that led him into those 6 finals. There was no I in team. There's no I do it by myself. Kobe. Do you think Kobe would be Kobe without Shaq? Yes, we would still look at him in highlight, but would he have won without Shaq? And if he didn't need Shaq, why when Shaq left did he start losing until 2008? When he finally got Pau Gasol.
Team sport. Andrew Bynum came into his own.
Like, think about this for a second. If it's just one player can do it, and that's where our debate comes in. It doesn't make sense. The rings don't make a difference. It shouldn't make a difference because it's a team sport. You need a team. If that was the case, then Kobe would have won without Shaq. If that was the case, then Michael Jordan would have more rings because he's been knocked out in the first round until he got Scotty. Every year, first round exit until he got Scotty. This ring debate doesn't make a difference. It shouldn't make a difference. This should not be how we quantify and rank players based off of rings. It should be off of accolades and what their impact on the game. That's where the standards where it should be set. Because we can't say, I mean, everybody, they use these age-old debates. 50s, 60s, 70s. This is where rings matter. They was like, oh yeah, Bill Russell got 11 rings. He's winning more than Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain's the better athlete. He's the better player. You would never say that. You always say that, oh, LeBron is not better than Mike. LeBron's the better athlete. He's the better player. His type of game leads to winning.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's game, he's a winner. He's a killer, yes. But his type of, if he led to winning, then he wouldn't have needed Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
These are teams. The Golden State Warriors is the purest example of a team. You think that if Steph was on that team by himself, he would have went to the finals and won? With nobody. Without a team. Then you also have to take into account coaching and the system that he's in. The system works better for him. Maybe he's not the best example, but think about that for a second. Would he have won if he never got Draymond and Clay? If they were never drafted? Would Giannis never won if he didn't get Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday? No. Would Hakeem Olajuwon ever won if they didn't, who was on that team? Give me a second.
Clyde Drexler for the second time around. But at first it was Kenny the Jet Smith, Vernon Maxwell, and that one forward who has a lot of rings jumping around their team.
Robert Horry. Team. These are teams. Rings are not individual accolades. They're team accolades. That Chicago Bulls team was one of the greatest teams of that era, period. They had the record for most regular season wins until the Golden State Warriors, as a team, broke it. These are the problem, and I'm gonna end it here. The problem with the ring debate is that it's not based off individual accolades. Rings are a team accolade. This is a team sport. You don't go in high school and say, oh, this guy has won the championship every year. He's the best player in high school. That team's the best team. T-E-A-M. Team in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a group accolade, not an individual accolade. So stop comparing players off of individual accolades. I mean, off of group accolades and not individual accolades.
I think by far the easiest example of that is college basketball. Like, how many times do we see top 5 prospects get bumped the first round of March Madness? And, like, you got a group of seniors that have been together like the years Villanova won it, and they might have one lottery guy like Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson, but like most of them are seniors and they've been there for a while and they're a good team, right? College basketball is a team, and I completely agree with you that in the NBA, man, it's great players do lead to like great dynasties if they have great teams around them, but you have to understand that a lot of these guys are changeable. Like, you put one guy in a different situation. Like, if you switch Wilt and Bill Russell, Wilt has 12 rings. I don't think he would have ever lost.
Yeah.
Ever. Because then we would be talking about Wilt as the greatest basketball player of all time. Because he would have 12 rings. And he would have those stats. Like, yeah, he might have had more players on his team, so he might have averaged 50 and 25, but it probably would have been like 40 and 20. Like, still would have been ridiculous. He still would have been that guy. It would have been a good fit in the system because he's a good passer. He led the league in assists one year because people were calling him so selfish. Because people didn't understand that just because a guy is averaging 50 doesn't make him selfish. Doesn't make him only think about himself. Because Michael Jordan had to overcome the same issue when he was averaging 36, 37 and wasn't winning. Right? But when he's a winner and then he's averaging 30, everybody's like, wow, he's so special. He's averaging 30. So, man, that man's going to drop 50 on you. Like, that's so crazy. You better watch out. His man's a bucket. Like, he leads to winning. Well, Wilt Chamberlain never had a team like that to where people would have said he leads to winning because it's undeniable. Because I don't care if you write 50 books talking about how Bill Russell's not a winner. Nobody's going to believe what you're saying because he has 11 rings. Oh, evidence says X. How am I supposed to believe it that something is different than that? How am I supposed to believe that Bill Russell's not a better player than Wilt? But if Wilt would have had 12 rings, he would have been in the same situation. We would be talking about Wilt as the greatest center of all time, and the arguments would be tough for all-time greatest player. We have him at 2. And trust me, I love Michael Jordan. Okay? Michael Jordan's a ridiculous athlete. Like, Michael Jordan's gifts is insane. The fact that we have Wilt Chamberlain number 2 talks about how great his gifts are. He just did not have the team. And I completely agree with you, Chris. Like, it's ridiculous that we have to deal with stupid people. Like, it's just what it is. People don't watch basketball. People don't watch these old players. A lot of these things you can find easily on YouTube. A lot of people don't want to put the work and effort in to learn, to challenge their own opinions and what everybody else is saying. And it's just easy. It's easy to say, oh, Wilt averaged XYZ, but I read Auerbach's book where he's completely biased to Bill Russell, or I read Bill Simmons' book of basketball, and man, he's just so biased to Boston Celtics players. He just rips into Wilt Chamberlain. Oh man, like, you have to understand that people read, people hear whatever the people say, and oh my gosh, how am I supposed to make my own opinion and disagree with Red Auerbach? Red Auerbach has 11 rings. He was the greatest coach of the 60s. How am I supposed to know something different than him because he has a biased perspective? You have been listening to people with biased perspectives. When we came in, we started doing this podcast, we were completely fresh. We started looking at all these players, and we start seeing all these guys that are completely underrated, and that's the point of the series, is to give these guys the light they deserve. And Wilt Chamberlain is the birth of this series, because it was ridiculous the first time we watched Wilt. It was like coming to Jesus moment. It was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea he was really like that. Like, I thought he was going to be pretty okay, but I was watching players in the 60s, and I was like, they're okay. But then I saw Wilt, I was like, he's a demigod. What the heck? Right. How was he there? Like, bro, it takes 5.5 seconds. Trust me, when you see it, you'll start putting 2 plus 2 together why he's so special. Okay? It's not human.
No, not at all.
Not human.
It's a team sport. Rings are a team accolade.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fact, Chris. It's a fact. Well, I feel like this might be a natural stopping point, so do you want to cut it here? Alright, but I don't want to put these at 2 hours and have people really going in the nitty-gritty with me. Okay, so, this is our series, man. This is what you guys are going to have for the next month. We have some really good players. I mean, the players on this list, some of them I really feel to my core about how much I love these guys. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of big names. We're going to be talking about players that really, really should be more appreciated by basketball people and just weren't appreciated in their era. So, we'll be talking about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. This series